Hey, Cody Pfeiffer here. Today we are talking about our module, I think it's 7, and we are 7, online learning. Now this takes the premises of, learning outside the typical large classroom and taking, the more LMS tactics such as the Google Classroom or the Schoology or the Canvas boards, and using that in portion of, instead of, a typical education. Now, what are my thoughts on online learning? Now, the ideal I feel behind it is it's a very hit or miss kind of subject. I personally love online learning. It gives you a certain freedom to do your assignments, education, and to learn at a basis that you can within, a specific amount of time. In traditional schooling, you see assignments assigned one day, do the next. Whereas in typical online courses, they're assigned a week in advance, and you get that week to decide when you want to do it, but you have a specific amount to do. Now, this gives much more freedom, but the person who's taking this class has to have a certain amount of willpower to push through and be able to, sit down and be like, I am going to do this. Whereas the traditional schoolroom is like, they're forced to do it by tomorrow, or they get a failing grade. Do I think it's appropriate for students to complete online learning? I think it's good to at least try it. Now, the idea of switching everything to online learning is a real missed tactic, because online learning is a very, like I said, hit or miss kind of tactic. It's not going to work with everyone, just as everything doesn't work with everyone. You're going to have students that do better through listening. You're going to have students that do better through, watching, getting visuals, going personal, kind of that connection. Whereas online learning takes a much more impact on the person delving into themselves, the want to learn, the need to open up a book and read and explore more than just what you're learning, like on the screen. Whereas in traditional learning, they're there and they're there to help you and put you in place. Now, do I think that every state should require students to complete an online course? I believe it should be necessary to complete at least one, to give a handle on it, to feel like, to see if they would enjoy it or not enjoy it. Because when I first took online courses about, actually my second semester of college, 2 years ago, and when I first took the class, started, I absolutely hated it. I couldn't get myself to sit down. I couldn't get myself to take control of the assignments, and I found myself, pushing them off to the last second. Whereas now when I'm doing assignments, I complete them throughout the weekday, and then turn them in all at the specific due date, so that I can go back and I can look at maybe any mistakes I made, any errors. So as I'm completing them throughout the week, it gives me a chance to look back and see, get up from my setting, get away from the homework for a bit, come back and see if I made any mistakes, which I really love the idea of being able to correct myself before turning it in. So the idea of having them complete at least one course before, they graduate can give them an idea if they would maybe do better in online courses, or maybe if it fits into their schedule better, where they have more freedom to decide when they want to do the assignments and not, it's due tomorrow. I gotta get it done. And, if you have to work, if you have to have some other kind of prior arrangement, you're kind of just out of luck in most terms. Now, my experience with the LMS, honestly, I love it. I loved the fact that I could make questions, I could make, the lectures, I could put, I don't know if I'd use it necessarily as a teaching, to teach everything, but I could see it being fantastic, you're working in the classroom, and you give a go-home assignment, and they could pull it up online if they lose it, or they could pull up, I could put brief lecture notes that I had spoke of that day. So something for them to go back and look at if maybe they didn't get quite the notes they had. So I could see that being of great use for a future educator, especially in the younger kids where, forgetful as they are. So with LMS, I believe it's more of a... I see it being used as an education tool, for sure. I see it can be used as a full education term, but I see it more as kind of a backup thing for when, if you need to go home and look at stuff, if you need to go home and revisit material that maybe you've done for that day, because that's something I'd love to do as an educator. Give a lesson, give a quiz, give some questions. They can go home, get on the computer if they need to, and they can, you know, look over stuff if the homework seems too challenging or have questions about it. So the LMS as a future educator, I can see me definitely using, not in a full term, but in a half term where they could go back and revisit. So online education in and of all is a growing thing, and I can definitely see why it is, because, you know, I'm taking online education currently, and the idea behind having the freedom to sit down, having the freedom to, well, I have to work today, but I have assignments, so I could just do them tonight, or tomorrow, or I even have another day to do them. But it does take a certain amount of willpower, and I know that everyone learns at different aspects. So to say that online education is the end-all of education is a bit ridiculous. It is a stepping stone, and it is right for some people and wrong for others, just like everything else. And while it has its place in education, I believe that traditional education will always have its places as well.